Hello and welcome back. It is Monday. I am Mr. Sesotris, and today I wanted to talk about something that I think is pretty new to the reading community, probably within the past 5-ish years or so, and that is the gamification of reading. One of my resolutions as we head into the new year is to sort of cut out a lot of extra stuff that sort of comes with being a reader in online spaces and make reading sort of fun again. So I read books because I love books, and I also love the online reading community. I've met a lot of wonderful people, I've connected with authors, and I've got really amazing book recs, and my reading habits have changed a lot over the past 5 years. Ever since I joined BookTok in like 2021 or so. And it's just been kind of interesting to see how popular reading has become online, which is good, but there's a number of pitfalls that sort of have come out of that. And this is just speaking to my experience personally. Everyone is different and everyone is going to sort of relate to this in different ways. So if this is something that works well for you, that's fine. I'm not like saying everyone should be the same and everyone should read the same. That's not my point. I'm just kind of saying that like this is what I have experienced and this is how it's affected me personally. Now that reading online has sort of become so popular, a lot of companies have discovered that reading is very profitable to them. Many reading companies and apps and online social media spaces basically want you to be stressed and overwhelmed and constantly reading and adding new things to your TBR all the time and signing up for subscriptions. And the way it's presented is like, this is a great way for you to be able to read everything you want, and it's great. I'm thinking of things like Kindle Unlimited and Kobo Plus. But the way that they kind of make their money is you're signing up for so much more than you could possibly ever read in a month. Now, some people do just read a lot of like shorter things and they can get through it really fast. But if you look at sort of the cost of a book to buy it and the amount of books on Kindle Unlimited that you get through in a month, and then you compare that price to the cost of your monthly membership, for some people it's worth it, and for some it isn't. I know for me right now, it's pretty worth it because I do get through the kind of shorter books on Kindle Unlimited pretty quickly, but it does add kind of an extra layer of stress because you're like, you want to read as many books as possible to sort of justify your monthly membership. And a lot of these things sort of prey on the concept of FOMO, where you want to have access to sort of everything right away immediately, and you want to be able to get through everything as fast as possible to keep up with the new stuff that's coming out, because there's a ton of great authors who are writing really awesome books that everyone is really obsessed with, and you have to sort of keep up, and it can cause some kind of unnecessary stress. Now, I really like Kindle Unlimited, so this isn't like don't sign up for Kindle Unlimited or Kobo Plus or anything, but it's just sort of, I've noticed that these apps and subscriptions and websites and stuff often control the way that we consume books in a way that sort of can cause unnecessary anxiety and stress about your reading. And there's 3 sort of specific things that I have noticed that I want to kind of be more aware of personally. Now, the first one I've talked about in a previous video, and that's reading goals. Now, reading goals are great for a lot of people, and you know, it's not really an issue for a lot of people. If you're someone who doesn't read a lot and you want to kind of challenge yourself to find time to read more and to read more books in a year, reading goals are great. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's also especially good for like younger people. If you're trying to get kids interested in reading, you know, setting goals and encouraging them to read more is great. So there's nothing wrong with that. But reading goals, especially online, can become a competition where there's people making longer and longer reading goals because they want to have more social media clout. And so they're sort of forcing themselves to read more and more books, and it's sort of controlling what kinds of books you can read. There's like, I'm seeing a lot of posts right now that we're going into November, a lot of posts of people who are like, I need to read lots of really short books so I can reach my reading goal, instead of reading just the next book that you want to read, even if it's a long book or whatever. But there's this kind of pressure to meet those reading goals, especially if they're really high. And so you force yourself to read lots of short books, lots of simpler books, just for the sole purpose of meeting the reading goal, not because you're reading what you necessarily want to read. And if you're a constant reader, reading goals are fine if it's more just like, I just want to see how many books, I can get through in a year. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when it gets to the point where it's like, it doesn't matter what I'm reading, just as long as I'm hitting reading goals, then there's that kind of constant pressure to just read shorter and shorter books just so you can get through a longer and longer reading goal just for the sake of it. And it sort of takes a lot of the fun out of it for me personally. I stopped using reading goals beginning of this year, and it was really great. I know last year I think I set a goal of like 80 books or 90 books or something, and I didn't quite reach it, but I was getting to the point where there was books that I wanted to read, but I thought they were too long, and so I wasn't reading them because I wanted to read shorter books so I could get to that goal. I tend to read a little bit slower if it's a physical book, just because I don't have as much time to read physical books as I do. I get through audiobooks really fast because I have lots of time to read audiobooks, but it was kind of affecting my reading because I wasn't reading things that I necessarily wanted to read. It was like, well, this is going to help me get to my reading goal, and the goal was sort of the only thing I was caring about. And so I stopped using a reading goal, and that's helped me a lot. And so this year I've just been reading what I wanted, and I think I still got to like 80 books or so, and there's sort of no pressure there. So I don't really care how many books I read because I'm always reading anyways. I have sort of, built-in reading time each day, and I just read what I want, and that's fine. The next thing that I've noticed is reading streaks, and this is something that I've seen more in Kindle Unlimited. Now, I really like Kindle Unlimited. I think it's a great service, and it's also where a lot of my favorite indie authors are, and so it's, I think it's really valuable, and I'm reading enough like Kindle Unlimited books to justify sort of the monthly membership. If it gets to the point where I'm getting through maybe only 1 or 2 Kindle Unlimited books a month, then at that point it's just worth it to just buy the books outright. A lot of those books that are on there, if you buy them, they're like, $5 or so. And so, if it gets to the point where I don't necessarily need to be subscribed to have this vast, huge library, that's fine. And there's always going to be like Stuff Your Kindle events where there's free books that you can download for free and then keep them. Like you can buy them for free and keep them. And so I've noticed there's something to that too, where I have to justify my Kindle Unlimited membership. So I'm not going to read the book that I own in favor of the Kindle Unlimited book because I want to read more of those so I can justify paying a monthly subscription. So, I think it's going to get to the point where maybe I'll have too many books and I don't need to have that subscription anymore because I can just read the stuff that I already have. And the free books that come out periodically, a lot of authors do that. They'll maybe release the first book in a series during a Stuff Your Kindle event or whatever, and they're free, or there's like a short-term sale on something where it's 99 cents. So you can get a ton of fabulous books for super, super cheap, and you don't necessarily need that subscription. Right now, there's just a few authors that I really, really like, and their books are sort of, it's better to get them through the Kindle Unlimited subscription because I go through them fast enough and it's okay. But that's something to be aware of yourself if you look at sort of the cost to just buy the book outright, especially if you're reading shorter books. I know I usually read romance and like short fantasy and stuff on Kindle Unlimited, and so when you go to buy them, if you want to, if you really, really like it and you say, oh, I want to have this forever, it's usually not super expensive. There was one series that I recently read that the 4th book isn't out yet. I read all 3 on Kindle Unlimited, which is good because each time you read a book, it gives the author the page reads and they get paid for that, which is good because that's a great way to support indie authors. And then afterwards, I went ahead and bought the book so that the author would get, the purchase boost as well, because Kindle Unlimited only pays authors if you read it the first time. Kobo Plus pays authors if you read books multiple times, so that's something to be aware of. But it's fine now, but I think it's going to get to the point where I won't need the subscription because I would have got enough free books from, events throughout the year that I'll have enough to read for a long time without needing to subscribe to anything else. So that's probably something I'll be aware of. But reading streaks on Kindle Unlimited are really interesting, and there's kind of a psychological impact of that, because there's a way to kind of track your reading, and if you're not reading at least a part of a Kindle book every day, it marks it as like you weren't reading that day, and so it wants you to have like ongoing streaks. And I read in the morning most times. My work schedule has been weird lately, and so I haven't had my like morning reading time as often, and so I'll try to read when I get home, but I don't often have time. And so there's like these empty days on there. And there's also books that I have physically that maybe I'll want to read during that time. And if you read a physical book, it counts on Kindle Unlimited as you aren't reading anything, because you're not reading it on the Kindle itself. And so there's kind of a psychological effect of that, where it's like it's saying like, oh, you're not reading, and so it wants you to stay on that one device, and it doesn't want you to read anything else, because you have to keep that reading streak up. And for people who only read maybe one book at a time, and there's nothing wrong with that, that can have kind of this effect of like, oh, you're not reading enough, you're not doing it well enough, you need to keep reading, you need to read every day, otherwise you're going to miss your streak. It's the same reason why Duolingo can be so emotionally manipulative. Because it's like, you're not studying, even though what you're studying, it's more like you're studying how to play a language game rather than studying how to actually speak the language. Like Duolingo is fine for like the bare basics, but it doesn't really encourage fluency. It more encourages sticking to the game of the app, where you have to practice every day so you can keep that streak and get points. And so be on the lookout for stuff like that. I know the reading streak thing, I had to stop looking at it, because there's sometimes when I want to read something that isn't on Kindle Unlimited, and I just want to read something that's fun and short that I have, or something that I've borrowed from the library, or something like that. And so, the reading streak doesn't reflect my actual reading, and so the reading streak is making me feel bad for no reason. And so I just had to stop looking at that, because it isn't really reflective of anything, and it's just a means of getting you to stay on it and keep buying things from them so you can keep up that reading streak. Even though I have plenty of books in my Kindle Unlimited library anyways, because you can check out 20 books, and every time you finish a book, you can check out another book. And so there's way more than you'll ever get through, and there's tons of authors that I really like on there. The last one is social media reviews. And now reviews are a good thing. That's one thing that I really like about the online book community, is seeing people's reviews and seeing what they like about it, and finishing a book and connecting with other people who have read it and seeing what they thought of it. And it's wonderful, but there's sort of this focus on reviews not as a community thing, but reviews as content themselves. And so on things like Reels and TikTok and Shorts on YouTube, reviews or bookish content is more about getting views and likes for yourself. And so you want to make them as entertaining and punchy and exciting as possible, so people will read them, because you want to get more views and likes so your channel can grow. And that also can have kind of a negative impact, because it becomes less about, this is a good review of something that I really enjoyed, and it becomes more just like turning the review into entertainment. And so it's not really about the review. Maybe they'll just say, oh, I loved it so much, and that's kind of the extent of it. And for some people that works. There's some people who are so funny and they do engaging, entertaining, hilarious reviews. There are others who do really in-depth reviews. There's a couple folks that do like 14-minute book reviews on TikTok, just in depth, and they're so fun, they're great, and they're just as entertaining as the short punchy stuff. But there is this sort of clamor of making reviews that will get people looking at your videos. And I know some social media platforms really de-incentivize reviews. They don't want people posting things that are long and involved. They want things to be short, like 5-second videos, because that's what encourages people to keep swiping. Because the point of social media is keeping you on there so you can see ads in between the views. That's the point of it. Not to get, companies are controlling us, because, I don't want to become a conspiracy theorist or anything, but that's how advertising works. That's what TV used to be. The whole point of TV was sort of programs would distract you so you would keep watching the ads in between the programs, or the ads that were embedded in the programs. They used to have, like those old shows in like the 50s where, the action of a TV show would stop just so the character could like do a little commercial for a product, and then they would continue on, because that's the whole point of it, is to keep you watching so that they can show ads to you. And things like Reels and TikTok and all that, the whole point of it is to keep you watching so that you can see the ads that are in between all the videos. And so if people are posting entertaining videos, then you're going to keep watching and you're going to see more ads in between things, and that's how they make their ad revenue. But there's a good balance to be found there. I think TikTok is pretty good because there's enough people posting meaningful, complex, interesting stuff that, even if you see an ad, you can skip past it and it's fine. YouTube is a little bit different. They have ads in between things, and you can pay for premium so you don't have ads, and then that money goes towards helping creators, which is good. But on some other platforms, especially Instagram's really dangerous for this. They don't care about kind of long form content or anything that's not immediately attention grabbing, and so they want videos to be like 2 or 3 seconds long and funny or something, just so that people will kind of keep scrolling. Anything like book reviews are really, the algorithm does not like them, and there's a lot fewer views to be had. So I've actually sort of stepped away from Instagram. I still have my Instagram account for if in the future I ever need it. I really like Threads, and so I still have that, because that's just more just whatever. There's no ads there yet. But Instagram itself, it really isn't beneficial in any way. And it's like, oh no, and you'll actually get notifications sometimes where it's like, this is a little too long, maybe it should be shorter, because it's just, they really don't care about, book reviews. It's more about just fun, punchy content. And so that's why I like YouTube a little bit more. I am still on TikTok as well, because that's where I usually do like short reviews on shorts here, and I'll post them also on TikTok as well. And that's fine. I'm not saying like social media is all out to get us and they're controlling our brains and stuff, but there is an element of sort of encouraging people to post stuff that has less substance and more entertainment value, instead of posting things that are actually engaging and get into things in depth. So I also, in terms of reviews, written reviews, not video ones, I spoke to a bunch of authors online, especially indie authors, and I said, what kinds of reviews help you the most? And the ones that they said were Amazon and Goodreads. Now, I know there's a lot of other things out there. There's Storygraph, Fable, there's all kinds of other things. And you can do written reviews on things like Instagram as well. But they said the things that kind of help them the most are Amazon and Goodreads. And I know that's kind of interesting, because a lot of people sort of avoid Amazon because it's like the big evil corporation. And like, I get that. I don't want to support, the big evil corporation that sort of treats people badly. But for a lot of authors, that's sort of the best way to hype up their books so that they get shown to more people, and then these indie authors make more money. And so if you want to support indie authors, that's one way to do that. Now, honestly, you can do whatever you want. If you don't want to support Amazon, there's lots of other options. Storygraph is a really good platform. It's a really well-designed platform. I really like Storygraph. Plus, there's all the graphs and stuff, so you can chart your reading habits and everything. But I know for me personally, I am going to be sort of moving my reviews more towards Goodreads. I might still use Storygraph just to track reading, but I think I'm going to post reviews more on Goodreads, because the reviews there, they're seen by more people and they influence authors' sales more. And there's a lot of indie authors that I really like, and so that's kind of the best way to support them. And I'm going to try to remember to post more things to Amazon itself, but Amazon is complicated and it takes like a number of steps to actually get to the point where you can upload reviews. So I don't know, I might do that. But for me personally, it's nice to know that I don't have to like stress out and post reviews sort of everywhere, because it was getting to the point where when I would finish a book, I would suddenly have 2 hours of work ahead of me, because I would have to write a review and cross post that to multiple places, and then I'd have to film a video review, edit it, and cross post that to a bunch of places, and get the captions and everything. And it was literally just a ton of work for not a lot of, like, you don't get anything out of it. I'm in Canada, so I can't really monetize TikTok. Not that I'd really want to anyways, but there's no incentive here to like going viral on social media really. And so there's no point to put that much work into posting reviews kind of everywhere. So the way I do it now is I'll post a review on Goodreads, and then I'll post a video review just a minute long on YouTube and then on TikTok, and that's it. And it's simple, and usually TikTok is where I get the most comments and discussions, and then YouTube is usually where I get the most views. And so it's fine. I'm not here for going viral online or becoming famous or anything. That's not the point. I just like getting reviews out there just so I can connect with other people who have read these books and see what they thought about it, maybe get book recommendations for other things that might be similar. So I'm just here to just learn about books and to share how much I love books personally. Because I know online there is sort of a trend recently, and this might just be a loud minority, it might not be a lot of people, but there's this trend of focusing more on finishing a book than actually having read a book. There's people that are posting online about how they're skipping things like prologues and epilogues because they don't think they're important, and people who say they only read like the first few lines of each paragraph so that they can skim through a book faster and get like to the end of the book quicker. And it's like, skimming a book is fine, I guess, if that's your thing, but it doesn't really give you a good experience of reading the book. And there's also this like thing, people saying they don't want to reread books ever because they just want to zoom through it, add it to their I have read this book, so that they can add it to their yearly reading wrap up, and then kind of race on to other things. And so it's not really about enjoying books, it's just about getting lots of high numbers in your reading so that you can look impressive online. And I don't know, that doesn't really appeal to me. That doesn't strike me as anything meaningful. High numbers are fine, but what I care about is like having read a book, talking to other people who have read books, hearing about their favorite parts and the things that they liked and didn't like about everything. And it's just the discussion. That's what my favorite thing is. Threads is right now kind of the best online space for just the bookish community. There are sort of the monthly discourse that comes around. Things like audiobooks don't count as reading, and what's the definition of romance? Should it have a happy ever after? And those kind of come back over and over again, and they're really annoying. But I think people are getting to the point where they've lost patience with that. And so anytime any of those discussion questions come up, instead of getting all angry and posting about it and like fueling the rage machine, people are just like ignoring it now, and they're just like, I'm not interested, moving on. Meanwhile, this is the book that I read, kind of thing. And I think that's a much healthier environment. It's much more positive. It encourages more reading of a meaningful way, and it's not just meaningless blather and getting angry for no reason. Now, like I said, that's probably just a small minority. It always seems like there's more people complaining about bookish discourse than actual bookish discourse. But I know something like Book Talk is a massive entity, and I've kind of curated my circle to be pretty small, and so I just see the people who just post reviews about books they love, and they're not talking about the same 10 books. But there is sort of the bigger bubble of Book Talk where people just basically talk about like Fourth Wing and ACOTAR ad nauseum and nothing else, and that's sort of the whole thing. But I mean, there's people who read nonfiction, there's people who read political thrillers, there's people who read all kinds of genres outside of sort of those two books, and there's lots and lots and lots of great discussion happening online. So you just have to kind of find it and let the algorithm help you there. But my main point is to make reading something that you actually enjoy, instead of it being something that you're doing just to fit in and to rack up high numbers to seem impressive. It's not a race, it's not a competition, it's not a game. It's just, we're here because we love books, and you can read whatever you want. And if you read weird stuff that no one else is reading, post reviews, because weird stuff is great, because more people need to hear about it. People need to broaden their minds and try new things. That's one reason why I have kind of gotten into romance more this past couple years. For a long time, it was like, oh, well, they're just sort of silly and fluff, and there's nothing of value to be found in there. And, you know, that's not really a genre for me. And then I tried a couple out and found that I really enjoyed it. The kind of structure of it means that there's always a happy ending. It's kind of like the same reason why you read cozy mysteries, because you always know at the end the mystery is going to be solved. And they're very comforting. And there's usually great character arcs and character growth. And I don't know, I really enjoy the genre, and I read it alongside everything else. And I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't been exposed to romance authors online talking about why they write what they write and why they value the genre itself. And so that's just something that's been really great. So read what you want. Again, I'm not telling you this is what you should do or this is what you shouldn't do. Everyone has different tastes, different speeds, everyone has different reading habits, and that's fine. So read what you want, enjoy reading however you want. Don't get angry at how other people read, but be aware of the things in reading spaces that are kind of designed to make you anxious and stressed out, because that's sort of a feature, not a bug. And know when to kind of step away from aspects of the online reading community that just don't serve you personally, because you're going to be happier ultimately, and you're going to have more fun. And that's why we're all here, is to have fun. So with that said, I will let you go. I will see you next week. And in the meantime, happy reading. Bye.